Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to Rolling Intentions. My name is Jason.
And I'm Mike.
And today, we're interviewing the game designer for Spark, the RPG, Jason Pitt. Say hello, Jason.
Hi there. And hello, Jason.
Hello, Jason.
I don't get a hello?
Well, yes, but, I'm just following orders.
Excellent. It's great having you on the show, actually. I think you're the second game designer we had, and it's exciting, so I can't wait. But of course, as always, we have this list of questions that we have to go through.
Of course, mandatory.
Mandatory questions. So first of all, are you from Ottawa, or?
Okay, born in Victoria.
Okay.
Moved to Ottawa when I was rather young, so now I'm in the Ottawa area. And, so I've been in Ottawa for probably over 20 years at this point. Technically, I'm in La Belle Province right now, so...
Yeah, I just wanted to basically make sure all the podcasters know that, we are a Canadian podcast, and this is a Canadian game designer, so...
This is officially CanCon.
It totally is. So what is your history with role-playing?
Let's go all the way back. I first played my first RPG. That would probably be, I think that was grade 5?
Mm-hmm.
So 10, 11 or so.
Okay.
Which is a ways back. First game was RuneQuest, which was an experience.
I remember that.
A lot of people probably wouldn't, because that's a pretty venerable game at this point. But yeah, I fell in love immediately with the sort of creative freedom involved with role playing. Even though, my first character, like most people's first characters, was effectively Gandalf. Gandalf, the guy with 2 axes.
So, were you the guy trying to gather all the loot and stuff too? Were you like the loot whore?
I never quite reached my GM was not a heavy loot kind of GM. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So, and I was playing, eventually picked up, my first D&D edition, 2nd ed. Started carefully crafting my first adventure, way back in high school. Built an entire world during one of the high school summer breaks.
Of course.
And actually the first game design-ish thing I did was compiling all of the 2nd edition D&D material into 4 binders. Now, for those who joined the hobby later on, 2nd edition D&D had about as much material as 3rd edition D&D, except less well organized and less consistent. So that taught me the basics of editing and document management, and that really helped. Then after that, dove into World of Darkness, where I wound up running a sort of moderating, then leading, then in the end almost running a World of Darkness forum called Shadow Essence. Then someone introduced me. I was actually working on a fan project to make an expansion of Demon the Fallen, and that was what dragged me to Shadow Essence. So I spent 4 to 5 years sort of trying to hack something and design a game from scratch without a license, and that was a very good learning experience. I made my biggest mistakes there. I love the world. I was trying to make something that was backwards and forwards compatible with Demon the Fallen way back in prehistory, and without a license and without any real practical experience. And let's just say my design skills have improved since then.
Well, yeah, I've been reading over your stuff. It's pretty impressive, actually. I really like it. So.
Oh, you're far too kind.
Looking forward to playing it, though.
Well, we are looking forward to it, for sure.
Oh, good. Makes me feel good. I'll definitely say that. So yeah, I started designing on this little project, The Sundered Heavens, with a friend of mine in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I eventually started working on the project that later turned into Spark. I think I started actually working on that back in 2009 when it was radically different. Of course.
Of course. Lots of playtesting and lots of rules modifications. Everything changes over time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Also, so just going back to like role playing history in general, what was your most epic moment or funniest moment during a role playing session?
Okay, I'm a game designer in the story games tradition.
Right.
Generally. Try to be diverse, but that's sort of where I tend to go to.
Right.
One of the most memorable moments that I remember was when I was playing at Dreamation 2011 with Emily Careboss, and we were playing Shooting the Moon. And I was actually sharing a character with the game designer, Emily. And I was playing a character who had to effectively choose to sacrifice themselves, sacrifice herself, or let this center of culture and classical beauty, the Sydney Opera House, burn.
Some hard choices.
And she let it burn. And that was like the pillar of her personality, and like it was the one thing keeping her going, but she couldn't save it. And being forced to make a choice of, I'm going to sacrifice everything that matters to this character because it makes for a better story, but it just hits you right in the gut.
Yeah.
It's a good kind of pain that you can only really get from role playing. So
yeah. So like, what happened after that then? I mean, now that your character just lost the one meaning of life, where did your character go from there?
She effectively took up the cause of the robot revolution. Because it's a game about two courtiers both trying to win the heart of their beloved. It's sort of a romantic swashbuckling kind of game. So my character was trying to fall in love with the classical beauty, whereas this other character was trying to fall, passionate for sort of the empathy and whatnot of this other character. And so, everything of classical beauty that she was depending on burned. So, let's just start a revolution.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Lots of fun.
Now, as I said earlier, I do like the concept of it. Like, I read up a little bit on Spark, and it brought a couple questions to my mind. One of the main ones is, why did you choose Spark for the name of the game?
There's a lot of different reasons. Part of it was stemming from the fact that this game was originally, way back when, called The Hallowed. And it was a game of modern gods, American god stuff.
Interesting.
So it was, I really need to make a setting for that at some point. But yeah, it was a game of where it was effectively the spark of God, spark of greatness, and it was sort of that essential, fundamental specialness.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, the modern game also deals with a lot of other things. Includes things. It's the spark that starts the wildfire. It's the thing that causes things to start going and causes things to start evolving and changing rapidly. and it's the creation of nothing, something from nothing, and just, the first act of creation of any great thing. So yeah, there's something special about that guy or gal. That's sort of the 20 layers of context I built in my own brain towards this.
Yeah, that's a very expansive concept. Now you already mentioned as well that you already had a couple ideas for and started game designing a bit early. But what specifically brought you to the starting of Spark?
It was largely an evolutionary process, where I started with the Hallowed and then went, well, I'll try to make mechanics that work for this. And, maybe I should also try to make sure that I can use some of my old D&D material. So I'll make sure that I can plug things into it and I can reskin stuff to make it fit. That was the original sort of spark of Spark. Then I was starting to listen to podcasts and game design podcasts, and was hearing, generic games are bad because the system is always disconnected from the setting.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, so what if I actually designed a game that was purpose-built to avoid that from happening? Where the system was intentionally designed to be able to slot in settings. So what would that look like? And that sort of put me on the right path.
Cool. Excellent. Well, you mentioned that you took some of your old stuff from D&D and threw into it. I'm a big fan of D&D. Jason, not so much. But it sounds like you took some inspiration from a couple of different RPGs into one there.
Oh yeah, definitely took a lot of inspirations. Over the years, I began voraciously listening to podcasts, and buying every game I could get my hands on, because there's a lot of really good stuff there. The end of my book has a ludography 2 pages long.
Wow.
Which is just the references for all the games that really inspired me.
That's awesome.
Some of them are really big and, Fate core.
Right.
Some of them are older and underappreciated. The second edition, The Complete Priest's Handbook. And, it was a game about building religions and gods. And I just found that fascinating. So, yeah, there's a lot of inspirations in it. I have to say, I'd have to say that I've got about 4 big ones that really drove the game in this direction. Burning Wheel. Have you guys played it?
Oh, yes.
Excellent. Which edition?
Revised.
Okay. So you don't have gold yet. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Should I have gold by this point?
Sorry. That's the thing. I always go to Gen Con, so I always grab the latest releases of everything. Just game designers have it. So yeah, Burning Wheel, which, challenge your beliefs is one of the taglines of my game, and that was partially inspired from that. Less than you'd think, but it was still fairly important. Fate, specifically Dresden Files variation.
Right.
That iteration was a pretty major inspiration.
Aspects and stuff.
Yeah, aspect technology did shape how I use Fate, and also the city building portion of the Dresden Files game really did give me some good direction. Shock, social science fiction. Another lovely little indie game of some repute. A couple years back, that was 2006, I think? 2007?
I don't mean to interrupt you, but every time somebody would talk about your game, I always thought we were talking about Shock.
I understand. The title is also a little bit of an homage to that. Because, yeah, it's talking about social issues.
Yeah.
and the intersection of real world issues and concerns with, technology and whatnot. So yeah, that was a major hit. And the last one is Microscope by Lame Mage Productions, which is a beautiful game. Have you played it yet?
I haven't.
Have you seen it yet?
I think I heard it once, and I think I heard it on another podcast of Genisodes, and I think you were talking about that, the Gen, and that's the first time I heard of it.
Okay. I strongly recommend you pick it up, because it's a game about building an epic history on index cards.
Oh.
So the premise is that you are building a timeline through these large periods, these specific events, and playing out smaller scenes within those events.
Oh, cool.
And you zoom through time. So it might be the creation of the first robot. Everything starts there and it ends at the extinction of the human race. So between the first robot and the end of humanity. So then you might make a era in the middle. And then you say, the Great Ascension War. What's the Great Ascension War? We'll find out. And then you create an event that's going on there, and you explore that event and figure out what, ask a question and then explore that in a scene in that event, which then means that you can zoom forward 1,000 years and make some other things that are related to it and zoom back and forward. It's fascinating. One of the ways I actually referred to the game is Spark is a shock seen through a microscope. I definitely used some of that for the scene structure and a bunch of the world building stuff as well. So yeah, those 4 are the major inspirations. And if you're considering buying Spark, please consider buying those games first, because they're really good. Not to mention, Fate Core is going to be released on a pay what you want model soon. So
Really?
Yep. The original goal was just enough to be able to release it. Pay what you want.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So, and my hat's off to Fred for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the 4 biggest inspirations, and I've got a ton of other ones, little bits and pieces here, that I sort of fed into it. Yeah.
So, I guess we haven't actually got you to tell us about Spark, have we? So, why don't you tell us about your game?
Don't mind me if I sound a little egotistical here.
It's your show, right? So, go for it.
Well, it's Jason's show, at least.
Wow, okay. Jason, exactly. It's Jason's show, so.
So, Spark is a game about building worlds and challenging your beliefs within them. It's really about people exploring these strongly held perspectives and opinions and these really sort of fundamental philosophies and questions that people are trying to explore during play. So the goal of the game is effectively to explore things like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or might makes right, or charity is the greatest virtue. Things like that. These big sort of subjective and slightly controversial things. And the system effectively encourages and drives you to make situations where you're either supporting or refuting that, and you're sort of exploring, so what does this really mean in the world? What would this look like? And whenever you do that, you get candy in the form of influence points.
Oh, candy's good.
Yeah, exactly. So you get these things that let you win conflicts and get your way, and let you change other people's beliefs, which sort of ratchets up and helps other people get their beliefs. And there's a lot of sort of, it's the mixing of a bunch of different beliefs and issues and perspectives into different situations. So you can play with that. There's a major world building component if you want to use it. There's an entire 20 pages worth of text that shows you step by step how to go from literally nothing other than a sheet of paper, to a fully fleshed out world with NPCs and political factions and all of that. But there's also 3 settings built into it that both show you what kinds of worlds you can make and give you a bit of a framework that you can use for your own worlds, and just as a way to just start. And if you like the world, you can always just pick it up, tinker with it slightly, and like 15 minutes later start making characters.
Do you think that for people who are first playing Spark, do you think that's probably the best scenario, is to jump into one that's pre-made, or just start generating stuff?
Depends on your background. If you are a story game designer and you love world building, or you're a writer or something along those lines, you might want to just go into custom world building. If you find one of the 3 settings particularly interesting, then, well, by all means, go for that. They'll give you the same play experience. It's just that, it's very fun to build your own unique world. So, yeah.
The worlds that you already created with the different factions and such, I can't wait to dip into them. Because I seen the one with Montreal police drama.
Yep.
And I was just like, shit, that's like real life, so.
Yep. And they all do something totally different. I'll just get a pitch for each of them.
Sure.
Because I can.
Yes.
The first one up the block is Nihon, which is effectively a Japanese colony ship landed on the alien planet to establish a colony. Problem was, the original colonial surveys were kind of wrong. And the planet is filled with roiling clouds of fairly acidic rain and moisture. The temperature is a nice, comfortable 40 degrees Celsius on average. It's so corrosive and with such nasty EM properties that, it's very metal poor and it corrodes metal. So they set up shop on the mountains. Problem is, you can't really grow much up in the mountains. So the natural solution is, we'll genetically engineer some slaves.
Of course.
We'll keep them obedient by teaching them that they're, feudal Japanese shogunate peasants, and they must listen to the nobles.
Interesting.
And so it's Firefly, but a little less Magnificent Seven and more Seven Samurai. So for everyone who has those 3 cultural reference, sort of a cyberpunk samurai flick on an alien planet. This is look, you can make these really unique and wacky settings one. The middle one is Quiet Revolution, which is a game, it's the Montreal police drama, which is all about the interacting of different communities within the real world Canadian city of Montreal, and exploring how society tries to deal with issues of culture and identity and power and language, religion, all sorts of these really strong and occasionally messy social factors. So this one is more of a down-to-earth, realistic, like, we don't have superpowers here. This is people just trying to make a better world. The third one is, okay, step 1, take Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Step 2, warp it so that all of the inhuman things are elemental monsters.
Okay.
Step 3, change the geography so it's effectively Bosnia, Serbia. So you've got these large forces of elemental monsters crushing in the borders. You've got these mountain-herding dwarves who literally herd mountains in this incessant need to expand. They crushed effectively the Romans. you get these elves who are very fey and offer these really strange bargains. You know, put this nail under this tree, and I will give you 40 pounds of gold. And then 1 year later, a knight sits on that, gets tetanus, and dies. That knight no longer prevents the assassination of the king. The kingdom falls.
Interesting.
They're like butterfly effect, and they have elemental air powers. You get the rampaging orcs with lava for blood, rushing out of the sort of Germanic wilds. And you've got the Snatchers, which are these, they were from the Hellan Republic, and they were corrupted and warped by the sort of corrupting magics of other Snatchers, and got turned into these small, hunched over things with bulbous eyes, long fingers that tend to like eating raw fish, wriggling and juicy. So yeah, and they're all sort of coming in, corrupting, destroying the human kingdom in the middle. And they're trying to, survive.
I like all the unique elements you have in your different scenarios, which kind of makes me think about a couple different things. One of which is really what has been thus far your biggest obstacle to bringing this game to life.
Okay, the biggest obstacle to bringing this game to life. I have to say the biggest one is, quite frankly, I'm a relatively new designer. This is my first large commercial project. I mean, I've done some freelancing, I've done smaller designs that I've put out for free, but this is the first real big, juicy, 200-page book. So, that always has its own challenges. I'm having to learn how to write well, how to find all the support I need, how to print, how to Kickstart, how to do good art direction, that kind of thing. Which a lot of podcasts have been teaching me, and a bunch of seminars have been giving me, which is why I kind of just put all those recordings online on my podcast, the RPG Design Panelcast. Ding! Ding. Just because, they were really useful for me, so I thought I'd share them with other people.
Cool.
Who can't always fly to Gen Con 2 years ago.
I'm hoping to go this year. I don't know if I'll make it, but I totally want to go to Gen Con.
Excellent. Well, it'd be nice to see you there. Yeah, so generally, just learning how to do all these many, many things is the biggest obstacle. I also had a bunch of old mechanics that were problematic, and they had some good ideas, there was good reason why I had them, but they weren't the best tool for the job. And they weren't the best mechanics for this game. And I had to rip them out during the last Gen Con. The night before I ran a session, that last session for the Walking Eye, which is available at the Walking Eye.
Ding!
I'm shameless. What can I say?
That's cool. If you look at all of our podcasts, like we're doing exactly what they did. So.
They haven't done Mystic Imperium yet.
No, but that's actually Mystic Imperium that we did was actually not the Mystic Imperium Brad Towns, right? As much as it was a pre-designed scenario for showing the scenario build of Mystic Imperium.
Oh,
we actually haven't officially done a Mystic Imperium. We actually ran one of the game designers I know, my friends. Yeah, so that was his scenario that we played for him. But I can't wait to actually play Mystic Imperium to see like how it plays.
Yeah.
so you definitely had a lot of different obstacles when it came to into the creation and really bringing this game to its current potential. Now, probably the Kickstarter is another big obstacle that you had there.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering for one thing, like for instance, out of all the game designers and such, and it's probably got something to do with population or whatnot, but I don't see a whole lot of Canadian RPG game designers. Like, I know Joe, right, from Monster Hearts. Like, is there like an obstacle just not living in America? Like, is there like an obstacle for being a Canadian game designer?
Yes and no. First thing first, there's a lot more Canadian game designers than you think.
Oh, then I'm sorry. Yep, then I'm wrong.
Because, for one thing, we're all, very understated and mellow, and we try not to, brag about the fact that we're Canadian most of the time. Now, here's a few people that you might have heard of.
Sure.
Ed Greenwood.
All right, yeah.
I think it's safe to say he's one of the more known names. There's also Adam Koebel of Dungeon World fame.
I didn't know he was. Oh, wait.
Vancouver.
Oh, he was Canadian.
Yep. Sage is not, but Adam is. Fraser Ronald of Centurion, Swords Edge Publishing. He's publishing his Roman Legion game right now.
Oh, is he?
It's on Kickstarter. I backed it. They just made goal as of the time of the recording.
Oh. Cool.
Check it out. It's neat. We've got, I believe, Anna Kreider of Thou Art But a Warrior is an American living in Canada right now. There's a number of other Canucks out there that are trying to do this. Darcy Burgess of Black Cadillacs, from the good old days in the Forge. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch. I'll just keep name dropping. But
I understand. I'm quite buried.
Sorry. But there are obstacles. There's definitely obstacles.
Really?
Well, for one thing, I had to partner with an American friend of mine to be able to use Kickstarter.
Really?
Yep. Because the Amazon payment system only works for Americans, and they've produced a British version of Kickstarter, but not a Canadian one.
Oh.
So I partnered with my American colleague and friend, the amazing David Hill Jr. of Machine Age Productions. Buy his stuff. Shameless. He helped me make this possible.
Awesome.
Because I like Indiegogo on principle, but it doesn't quite have the tools compared to Kickstarter. So other obstacles include conventions, because you know where all the big conventions are.
Yes.
There's a handful in Canada, but for the most part, for instance, I attend one of the local conventions here in Ottawa, Can Games, which is an old convention, as in Gygax attended it in issue 5 of Dragon magazine. It was advertised back in like the mid to late 70s. But it's only got 400, 500 attendees.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. We live in Atlantic Canada. So, our real only convention that we get, other than the small ones here on Newfoundland, is like HellCon, which is like the Halifax convention. That doesn't exactly appeal to just gamers. That's actually just nerd things in general, right? So we don't have anything over here that's really. But what other conventions?
Yeah, so there's a couple more around, but for the most part, I tend to go to the States. There's a few really nice conventions down in Jersey. Dreamation in about February of every year, and Metatopia in November.
Right.
Metatopia is amazing for anyone who's interested in game design. It's where all of the game designers go to talk shop and test their stuff and attend panels and that kind of thing. And the secret password to go in is I would like to attend.
Wow.
If you want to talk to, Cam Banks and Fred Hicks and all of these amazing game designers of fame and legend, attend and say, I'd like to test your game. Do you have playtest slots? The response is, certainly. Please join us.
That's amazing.
It's a great convention, and it's really friendly. Vinny, the guy who runs it, is amazing. Dreamation is more of an indie-friendly gaming convention. There's some playtests that are going on, but for the most part, it's focused on going in and just playing games. And it's a ton of fun. Great community. I can't speak highly enough of Dreamation and Metatopia. Along with Gen Con, which is great. And yes, those are barriers. I have to go to cross into the States to attend conventions, which is a lot less convenient than having one in a 2-hour drive from here or something along those lines.
Yeah, which kind of brings us to your Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, so can you talk about your Kickstarter campaign a little bit, like the awards and what you're offering?
Okay.
That's currently going on, like right now.
Yes, right now, at the time of recording, we've got 30 days left. I've been relatively happy with what I've gotten so far in terms of backing and people support. It's kind of awe-inspiring. Right now, when we're recording it, I've got $3,500. And yay. And it varies all the way from $10 for a digital copy, $30 for a physical copy, up to some retailer rewards, where I'm trying to make things as nice as possible for retailers to get, my book in stores. To sort of bigger packs that include these amazing dice bags from my friend and colleague over at Sink or Swim Stitching. She makes these beautiful reversible dice bags with belt clips and everything, and she produces one of them that actually has individual dice pouches. So you can separate out your D4s from your D6s from your D8s.
I was looking at that, actually, and I almost want to get the Kickstarter for that bag, because that bag looks awesome.
Yeah, and it clips closed, and the outside is waterproof. This was I would like a bag that I can bring around Gen Con, show off, brag about my game, and run demo games. Hello, my friend, who is an amazing sewer, who also likes games. Would you like to, work on something? And this turned into a line of dice bags, nice. which are really beautiful. And the pictures online don't do them justice. So yeah. So those are included with the higher tiers. And then they go all the way up to making a faction, or I'll teach you the game, and those kinds of high level rewards. If people happen to have money burning a hole in their pocket, I'd be more than happy to take it off their hands.
So now that you mentioned that you're getting close to your 4K market, it's pretty much only been like a day. What do you have any plans for any stretch goals?
I have a few, and because this is, I'll probably have reached my 4K stretch goal by the time this releases. My next goal is actually to be able to reward my editors better. The idea is not only do I pay off a bit of investment that I've made already in editing, but I'd also be able to give them all a little bit of a bonus, sort of in thanks for their hard work, and compensate them because they were very generous and gave me some deals in order so that I could afford to hire them in the first place. And it'd be nice to be able to send a little bit more gratitude of the financial kind in their direction. And it will also give me a chance to write up 3 pre-made setting packs, with pre-generated characters and a pre-made world, NPCs, initial situation, all that kind of thing. So you could literally just print off one PDF, bring it to a convention, and run it. And I'd be producing one of these for each of the 3 settings. That is my next secret stretch goal.
That's awesome.
And I've got like 10 or 20 lined up after that. Yeah. In no certain order, so.
I'm sort of just, digging through my couch to find a couple more pennies and dollars to put towards it, so.
I appreciate it.
You mentioned putting together a few different like scenarios and whatnot. Do you have any other like kind of big game ideas waiting to be unleashed?
Yeah. Okay. First thing, yeah, with game design, you're always going to get a yes on that answer. No, I think I've got about 3 back burner projects right now, but only one of them that I'm actually likely to produce anytime in the near future. I've got one which is effectively campfire stories for D&D characters.
Ooh.
A bunch of D&D characters are sitting around a campfire and talking about their great adventures when they began their career, or what their mentors did, and tales of legend. And it's meant for one of those sessions where you don't get enough people attending the game to be able to play your normal campaign of some D&D or Pathfinder or Dungeon World game. So you effectively play this little flashback where one of the players in the normal game is GMing or DMing in this sort of lightweight, one session, campfire story of back in the good old days. And, sort of Dungeon World-y. But, meant to be a quick, we want to do a classic dungeon crawl and a classic adventures, and this time we're all rogues, and this time we're all fighters, and this time we're all wizards. And, lots of homages and that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's sort of one of my ideas, and probably the more promising one.
Is this something like you could take like a campfire story, like almost like, hey, I heard of a legend, and then you like replay the legend?
It's more like, so my character was that spear carrier in the back, and that's how I saw this happening.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That's a really neat
That's
idea.
friggin' cool.
That kind of
like this was the thing that I saw. This is the cool thing.
Okay, you got me there.
I really like the concept behind this.
Yes, that's one of my ideas in the back burner.
Awesome.
So yeah. So many ideas, so little time.
Every game designer.
You talked about the different scenarios in Spark. I probably mentioned scenario a lot of times, but I like the different ideas you had and the uniqueness behind them. So it makes me wonder, what scenario in Spark would you most like to see?
It all depends on who's playing. I've done a lot of testing with one of them, the Bones of the Nihon one. Because effectively these are built out of my convention game planning. And so I run a variant of that many times. And it's always been different, but I'd be curious to see how that works if I'm not even involved. If someone else was running it. But
have you never got to be a player of your own game?
I've been able to run it, and I've been able to observe other people playing it. But I haven't actually had a chance to just play it by myself. Just because it took me a long time to be able to explain the game properly in text. So to be able to teach someone how to run it, that's a relatively recent development. So, yeah, I haven't been able to be a pure player. Well, part of the issue is Spark is the player and GM are pretty similar in a lot of ways. So it's fundamentally, I mean, everyone gets a chance to frame the settings, frame the scenes, for instance.
Right.
So it's not just the GM who does that.
Right.
It's really just, effectively the GM has the setting as a character and gets to use them and use a bunch of NPCs. But other than that, it's about the same. They're using the same economy. They're using, the GM gets influence as well. So, the player and the GM role are pretty close. But, it would be fun to, play in a few games, and I'm hoping to do so in the future.
If I actually may just interject and ask one more question there. We do have a couple game designers that do listen to our podcast. His podcast. I'm just here for the ride. Anyway, you mentioned that you got a lot of tips from podcasts and whatnot through for designing your or game design in general. What kind of advice would you offer from your own personal experience to other people?
What kind of advice would I offer? Okay. I generally have two pieces of advice that I'd offer. Number one, I'd have to say, is find the core element of your game or elements of your game. What are the one or two things that define your game? Write that down. That is your log line. That is what everything in your game has to serve. Mine is about creating worlds and challenging beliefs. So that's what the game is about. Whenever I'm in trouble, whenever I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing, I look at those two things and say, oh, so is this helping me create interesting worlds that tie into players, or is this helping me challenge beliefs? No, I have to cut it. It hurts, but yeah. And the other one is a related note. When it comes to game design, always remember that your skills improve with time. If there's anything that you've had in your game for 2 years, look at it and seriously consider if it serves an invaluable purpose. And just on a lark, see if you could redesign in such a way that you could delete it. Yeah, that's what I wound up doing at midnight on a Saturday at Gen Con last year. And it gave me a much stronger game because of it.
I can't wait to play it at all. I think we have it scheduled for March 29th, and I think it's going to be our very first video cast.
Ooh, neat.
So we're actually we've got a room set up because I just moved it here in this new location. So we got two cameras. So we're actually going to set up two cameras. I think one other person might be joining us from Google Chat or something, but that's only because he really wants to play. So
nice.
Yeah, and he's also the same person. He's got a question for you.
Sure.
I don't know if it's serious or not, but so Aaron Friesen from the Live by the Die, Die by the Die podcast wants to know why do you rock my socks off?
Because the socks are insufficiently attached, clearly. Oh, yes, and flashback. Of course, there's one more Canadian game designer, Robin Laws.
Robin Laws, right.
I can't forget Robin Laws. Who'd be certainly capable of rocking someone's socks off. I'm not there yet. I hope to be able to at least loosen them with time, but, I'm not quite at the rocking them off yet. Maybe after the Kickstarter.
There you go. All right, Aaron. Expect that after the Kickstarter. All right. Well, thank you very much.
That's it.
Thank you.
And, well, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.